hear you.
See, all of you are DBA students, right?
Yes.
Most of us are.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Okay, so I think I will go straight ahead and share my slide. Okay, can you see my slide? Let's see, how do I? Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
Yes.
right. So welcome to an introduction to systematic literature review. I'm Nadro Shahman, and I will be conducting this masterclass for all of you for the next 1 hour. I hope it's a sharing session that we all of us can learn something from, and I hope that it's going to be useful for your journey as well in completing your um, DBA and if we have PhD in class. Right. So as you would, I hope you all of you would know in the course of completing your uh, dissertation or thesis, chapter 2 is where your literature review is going to be um, found, right? And there are many types of literature review that you can do. And one of it, and one of the most, I would say, one of the most uh, rigorous and one of the best way of conducting a literature review is by doing this, what we call a systematic literature review. And what if I tell you that mastering this one single approach to literature review could elevate the quality and impact of your entire research journey? So that's exactly what we are going to look at today on systematic literature review, or what I will call as SLR from now on, because the name is too long, right? And in today's session, we'll explore how SLR ensures transparency, depth, and rigor, and why it is crucial for business research and beyond. So you can also use it for, um, if you want to do research other than for your own uh, dissertation write up, right? Okay. So a little bit on the background of SLR. Okay, it originated from the medical and health sciences field. So why do you think SLR comes from the medical and health sciences field? Because it is very important in that discipline for you to be able to track and find out all this literature review that you have um, given in your write-up. So it evolved to address the need for unbiased, comprehensive literature synthesis, right? So it's where we um, gather all the literature that we can find, and we use a systematic approach on um, how to find the best literature that we can use for our study, for our research. Okay, and now it is, of course, widely adopted across various social science studies, business studies, and also in education research. Okay, so over time, this methodology has spread to social science and, of course, business disciplines, and driven by the demand for thorough, replicable research. Today, SLR can be said to be the gold standard for ensuring an in-depth and credibility in your academic writing. Right. So here are some objectives that we are going to look into today. I hope by the end of this session, everybody in this DBA Masterclass will gain a clear understanding of what SLR is and why it is important in academic research. So we'll also distinguish it from other literature review types and provide practical guidance on each step of the SLR process. Participants will also learn how to structure an SLR article for publication. So one good thing about SLR is, of course, the ability for you to publish a systematic literature review. I'm not sure if in your journey you find articles that you want to read. Probably you would have come across some SLR articles. Okay, but before we look into that, we want to know why do we want to conduct SLR. Okay, so as you can see here, an SLR is a well-defined method of literature review. So it is a form of literature review, but it has its steps and it has its process. And as we will see later, it has protocols that you have to follow. So it minimizes bias by following a strict and replicable process. So one important thing about SLR is the ability to replicate your findings. Okay. And it synthesizes available research to answer a specific question and provide a clear overview of the current state of knowledge on a topic. So hopefully when you have done your SLR, you will be the you will have in your hands the knowledge on the most updated and the most and the best information on that area, because you are going to sift through, you are going to eliminate, you are going to identify only the articles that is best use in your research, right? So by using the systematic search and selection criteria, this SLR will ensure objectivity and comprehensive coverage of the literature that you're going to look at. So here are some examples I'll share with you. This one, I found it online. It's you can just type in systematic literature review for anything that you want to look for. So here is by Guandalini in 2022, Sustainability Through Digital Transformation, a systematic literature review for research guidance. So it is a paper that goes through all this. This is a SLR paper that goes through all the papers available on sustainability through digital transformation. This is another example here. As you can see, the title, Role of Digitalization in Business and Management, a Systematic Literature Review. So in business research, SLR plays a crucial role in first, evidence-based decision making, right? By consolidating existing knowledge, and they will help identify industry best practices and emerging trends while strengthening theoretical frameworks, right? And by systematically identifying research gaps, SLRs drive future investigations and practical applications. So sometimes when you get into that stage, I think maybe we all have been there when you don't know or you find like a dead end, you cannot proceed in your research. By conducting an SLR, hopefully you will have a clearer picture of the overall studies and findings in that particular area that you are doing, right? Okay, am I making myself clear so far?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. All right. Very good. So these are just some of the papers that I have gathered. Um, wait. Okay. Never mind. I will go on. Now, as I mentioned earlier, SLR is another type of LR or literature review, right? And here I have gathered three out of many others. You can probably see before this a conceptual framework paper, another one called a scoping review and a narrative review. Others that I can recall, some papers you can see it's called meta-analysis, and also there is another type of uh, similar to a um, literature review study. I can put it under the umbrella of a literature review study. It is called a bibliometric analysis, right? But all of these different types of literature review has different elements to it, right? So the literature review, it comes in various forms and each of it serves a distinct or different purpose. So in this slide, I share with you these three types, okay? And we'll continue to see each of these particular literature review types and um, what are the characteristics of those different papers. Here I share with you one paper that I published much earlier um, in 2022. Basically, one of the conceptual framework paper that I did before I completed my DBA, right? So, in a conceptual paper, uh, it is how you are introducing, okay. It's more of a exploratory and theoretical framework, right? The paper introduce new ideas, theories, or framework, or how you are going to conduct the study, and it does not follow any strict methodology. It is less structured, right, and more flexible. So it is also useful in developing new concept or ideas, right? But it lacks the rigor or the systematic approach needed for an evidence-based conclusion. Okay, most of the time there is no conclusion. It's basically telling the readers how you are going to do the study, right? And then also, concept papers are often the starting point for more formal research projects. Okay, so eventually from here, the title is Influence of Utilitarian Shopping Value, Personal Innovativeness, and Electronic Word of Mouth on Mobile Shopping. Eventually, these are the variables lah in my research, and um, from here I went on to complete the whole study lah, which is the what I submitted for my DBA. This is another example, not my paper, but I was looking for a scoping review. Okay, in a scoping review, like what the name suggests, it's a broad overview. So it maps the breadth of available research on a particular topic. And from there, you highlight your knowledge gaps and emerging areas, but it's not done in depth. So this approach is valuable for exploratory studies, but it lacks the detailed synthesis found in SLRs. So I haven't seen much of this scoping review being published. Um, as opposed to a systematic literature review, I've seen some SLRs even being published in Scopus Q1 journals. So it shows that in the academia fraternity, they value an SLR much more. It's not just like you are just compiling few papers, but you have to follow a very strict and rigorous process in order for you to come out with an SLR. And then what we usually see is sometimes it's called narrative review, sometimes it's called a traditional review. More common that we see this found in your literature review chapters, right? To be frank, in my dissertation as well, I did a narrative review. Only after I have completed that I became more familiar with the SLR and I learned more on that. So a narrative review, it provides it provides an overview of the existing literature on a topic and summarizing key findings without the difference is that it does not use a structured search or an structured analysis process. So while it is a useful approach for the broad context, it is prone to bias and may overlook some critical studies, making it less reliable for evidence synthesis. Right. So one way normally when you do a narrative review is you create a matrix, right, of the articles that you have written. That is at most what you can do with a narrative review, as opposed to SLR, as we can see later on, more on the SLR. Right. Now, this is an example of an SLR, a systematic literature review. It's supposed to be more transparent and, of course, replicable, or you can reproduce it, right? It follows a rigorous, transparent methodology to minimize bias. Okay, so um, in other types of reviews, you can have certain bias towards certain literature, right? But not in an SLR. And also, it provides a comprehensive insight. It is also viewed as the gold standard in literature review. I would say an SLR, if done, conducted properly, means that you are uh, an expert in that area. So they are really highly regarded, right? Due to the ability to more to the ability to replicate that study, and also on the structure. We will see later. I've been talking about the structure approach of SLR. What it means, what it means by structure, what it means by following a strict protocol for search, selection, and analysis. So this all this have made SLR ideal for identifying gaps, forming robust theoretical framework, um, and others that I've mentioned earlier, using SLR, to you can use it even to complete your literature review in chapter 2, right? So here's some comparison. I've taken this from this article, The Art of Crafting a Systematic Literature Review in Entrepreneurship Research. Okay. So here are some areas. In terms of identification for the need for a review article. So in systematic literature review, it only makes sense if there is a need for one. So you don't have to do SLR all the time. But if you want to know more or you want to have an in-depth analysis of that area, then it makes sense for you to do an SLR. As opposed to a traditional literature review, or what we can say is like similar to the narrative review. Um, it is normally what is done in every publication that you can see, right? So you don't need to conduct SLR all the time, but for the purpose of maybe if you are conducting um, uh, you are completing your dissertation or thesis, then probably you want to be the subject matter expert in that. So you can do an SLR. Maybe if you have a grant that you want to, you know, fulfill the requirements of the grant, then it makes sense to do SLR. And then in the second one, development of a review protocol. So this is an essential um, process in an SLR. So you have to follow a protocol. There are several types of protocol. I'm going to introduce to you one that which is I'm quite familiar with. The rest, some of it are more suitable or more used in other disciplines, other areas of research, like maybe uh, uh, in um, medicine or some health studies. So they have another type of protocol that they use, right? But this protocol, they are not available in any traditional or narrative literature review. Okay, identification of research, it is structured, replicable, and transparent process. On the other hand, in a traditional literature review, you just pick any one out of the whatever articles that you find. So this cannot be done in a SLR study. Okay, then evaluating studies, you need to be able to have a again the transparent protocol to eliminate studies, an objective process of elimination. But in the traditional literature review, it's more up to the author to select the literature, right, in order to support their hypothesis. And then conducting data abstraction is driven by the protocol again. In the narrative literature review, driven by intuition of the authors. And then you have conducting data synthesis, which is a central part of SLR, is not available in literature review. And then reasons for SLR, you can publish a standalone paper, okay, in a quality journal, which is very important as you go on in your research um, journey. You want to be able to publish in more, higher ranking paper, higher ranking journal. It creates evidence and answer a research question. So research question is an essential part of an SLR paper. When you open up an SLR paper, you will always find research question which they need to answer. Okay, but in a traditional literature review, to set a literature foundation of an empirical project similar to what um, your normally you see in the chapter 2, right? But one setback I would say for the SLR is that it's time consuming because you need to be more the process is rigid. You have to go through a lot of steps and the protocols that you have to follow. It's just a little bit more time consuming, but of course in a traditional literature review it is less time consuming than an SLR. Okay, now you have seen the differences of SLR and other types of um, reviews like we had the concept paper, scoping, and also the narrative review. And I've gone through the differences between uh, narrative review and also the SLR. Um, just to recap, we started off with the history background, how SLR came about, and why we need to do an SLR. Now we're going deeper into now. Imagine that you are starting to do a search based on SLR. So first, you need to develop a search strategy. You need to identify the key search terms and the synonyms. And one thing about SLR, they encourage the use of Boolean operators. Okay, if you've never heard of what a Boolean operator is, I've taken some examples here. So this is a format that you put in. If you normally use Scopus, you can use this. If you use Google Scholar, some of the function can be used in Google Scholar, right? Only that I find that the difference is that in a Scopus, when you use Boolean operators in a Scopus database, the outcome is always replicable, is similar. However, in Google Scholar, the database is not as stable. Sometimes you can replicate the outcome, sometimes it's not replicable. So in certain days, it's sometimes, the results change. Okay. So in this case here, when you put in the Boolean like this, when you use or you use and, or you can use here, let me see, when you use or and or you can also use not, so you can um, eliminate certain results from your finding. So in, for example here, when they put in like this, they are looking for climate change or climate risk or climate variability or climate extreme or climate uncertainty. So all the papers with this title will be displayed, right? So they will have a whole list of paper, right? So if you want to get more comprehensive result, you can use various database. You can use the famous one, of course, Scopus and Web of Science. For business research, normally we go for Scopus, not so much on Web of Science. But if you don't have that, you can also do it on Google Scholar, right? Like for me, I don't have access to Scopus, so I'm using Google Scholar instead. But of course, there are some setback lah. Google Scholar ni dia free base kan, open access. Like in Scopus, you have to subscribe to it. So a well-crafted search strategy ensures that the literature review captures all relevant studies. So this is what you want, all relevant studies with that um, uh, key search terms is included, right? So you, and this search, okay, when we talk about the rigidity, the process of a SLR, you have to record this search and uh, and put it in your writing. So how do you search for the articles? You use the Boolean operators. What are your Boolean operators? You have to put that. There's one subsection for that for the readers to understand what did you search for, what are the areas that you and from there you will write how many papers were the result from that, and then you go on to how do you eliminate the papers, right? So using Boolean operators will help you to refine your search result, and this will in turn make the process more efficient and also more targeted. Okay. Now, this is an example here. I just keyed in a systematic literature review on, of course, here, this is, I'm using Google Scholar. You can see we have how many articles here. There's about 376,000 results on systematic literature review only. Of course, in Google Scholar, you are limited by the what you can do. Um, if you want, you can visit the Scopus website if you have the access to the journals in Scopus. That is, of course, more higher quality journals in there. So this is just a search that I did on systematic literature review. Maybe some of it I use in this presentation. I'm not sure, but I have compiled some articles that is useful for reference. Uh, I will probably share it at the end of the presentation. So then after you have done that, you have to go into the next stage, which is applying inclusion and exclusion criteria. So now you have done your search, probably, number of words that came out comes to about number of journals that you find can probably be, I don't know, in the thousands, 100,000 ke apa, kan? So you need to be able to um, have some criteria how the why or how or why the articles is selected. So you need to define the clear criteria for study relevance. You need to specify publication dates, language, and study design requirement and ensure alignment with the objectives. So one of the way you can do is that uh, I'm I'm pretty sure if you have already gone through your literature review, you've probably heard of it before. Your supervisor, somebody might tell you, keep your literatures current, citations maybe up to 5 years. So if you're doing it in 2025, you have to, quote or cite only articles from 2020 and above. Kan? So similarly, in an SLR, we can qualify the articles like that. So probably you want to only focus on articles from 2020 to 2025. And then that will narrow down the articles that are, or the articles that are um, selected. Okay. So you will continue to do this narrowing down process until you get to the few articles that you will then read for your SLR. So the inclusion and exclusion criteria maintain the review's focus, the SLR's focus and quality, and a consistent application of these criteria reduces subjectivity and enhances reproducibility. So that replicability. So what it means is that um, one of the way it avoids bias is that probably if you are doing just some um, um, narrative review, you might take some articles which are from the 90s, some articles from the early 2000s, kan? Some articles are current. So maybe there are changes or advancements, developments in the area that you fail to capture because you go all over the place in finding your literature. And then from there, you go into data extraction process. So you want to have a standardized data extraction which reduces errors and ensures that key information is consistently captured. So accurate data extraction lays the foundation for reliable analysis and synthesis of your findings, right? So how do you is there any way that will help us in doing this, the inclusion, exclusion criteria, data extraction process, and so on? Right. Now, I would like to introduce to you what is called PRISMA or preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. This is like the form. It's available here. You can find out here. I think I will share with you later how it looks like, but this is just a screenshot of the form. So it has to have this checklist which you have to fulfill, right, in order for the um, article to qualify. So it has a total of, in 2020, it was updated. Okay, it comprises of 27 item checklist, which addresses the introduction, methods, results, and discussion sections of a systematic review report. Okay, so if you've never heard of Prisma before, it's one of the, I think, a few that I have come across, but I'm, I think Prisma is more commonly used, especially in business research, and it's something that is easy lah to understand. Basically, uh, I haven't looked into the others, but I think Prisma will be sufficient for your usage. Okay, so among the things, there are a few steps in Prisma. Let's take a look at it. So the first, so this in Prisma, when I mentioned earlier about the protocols, so these are the protocols that is provided in Prisma. So first is the identification stage. So the identification stage will ensure a thorough research of all possible sources, capturing a wide range of relevant studies. So one of the process in the identification stage, again, remember the Boolean operators you find out in the specific database that you want to do. So it also helps to remove duplicates. Okay, sometimes when you have um, thousands of articles, these articles might be published in maybe, I don't know, sometimes it can happen, published in two journals, right? So you probably want to remove the duplicates, right? So you identify the relevant studies, you want to remove the duplicates, and then you want to document the total number of records identified. So this is very important. You want to show the process that you go through, what is with the initial identification, how many journals have you found, and then how you trim that down. Okay, and then you go into the second stage, which is the screening stage, which is the trimming process. It narrows down the studies to those most closely aligned with the research question, and you need to have a consistent application of the criteria within here to ensure objectivity, and you minimize your selection bias. So you have to have a record based on the title and abstract to determine the relevance of these articles. And then you can apply your inclusion or exclusion criteria. So maybe you have identified that you want to exclude all articles which is published in certain years, or you want to exclude all articles which have been published outside of Southeast Asia. You can provide that criteria. So you have that criteria, maybe articles that is published in Africa or America, then it's not, you can strike that out. So it's not counted in your SLR. Or it can be based on certain keywords or certain theme of the SLR. And then, of course, again, the third step is to document here. After you have screened it, what from the initial number, then it goes down to the next number. And then the eligibility stage, okay, where you identify whether you can have access to full text articles. And then from there, you need to ensure these articles are aligned with the research objectives that you are trying to achieve, and also the quality standard of these articles. So this eligibility stage will involve a deeper assessment of the studies that you have found to confirm their relevance and quality. Okay, so here I would like to note, probably sometimes when you do a research, especially based in Google Scholar, sometimes these articles that you found is actually not from a reputable um, source, right? Sometimes it can be in some, I don't know what we call as predatory journals. Maybe that is how, using this Prisma protocol, you can eliminate those articles and probably have a clearer um, focus towards quality, towards the relevance of the article to the study that you are conducting. And then finally, of course, you want to record reasons for excluding studies at this stage, right? Because you want to be clear, okay, maybe this study is being eliminated because it's produced in certain journals that you don't want to include, right? So this provides a better transparency, and also it strengthens your review credibility. Okay, and then the last one, the last stage, I would No, probably the second last stage, okay? Because in this stage is when what you want to include. So you finalize the studies to be included in the systematic review. You have, excluded based on the criteria. First, you have excluded based on your search key terms. Then you exclude based on your criteria. Then you have other reasons to exclude. Now, what is left and what you want to include in your SLR? So you finalize the studies which you want to include in your systematic review, and then you distinguish between qualitative and quantitative synthesis, and ensure that the selected studies address the research question. Remember, at the start when you conduct an SLR, you should have a research question. So when you differentiate the finding between qualitative, quantitative, this supports a more diverse and balanced insight, right? Of course, this is another class altogether on the qualitative, quantitative study. Yeah? But this is the final process before you can go into the next step, which is visualizing the Prisma flow diagram. Because in SLR study, when you have done all this, you need to create a Prisma flow diagram, uh, which is a visual representation of this whole process that you have taken. Okay, so it um, enhances clarity of the reader, where they can identify that this is the step that you take. Step one, eliminate how many. Then you go down the steps two. What have you done, right? So basically it offers a quick and a comprehensive overview of your whole systematic review process. So you need to first create a visual representation, then you illustrate each stage of your process, and then you highlight the number of journals or articles that you have um, removed at each point, and then you come down to the balance. Maybe you have about probably less than 20 sometimes, but you have to then, these are the articles that you have found to be most relevant, or the one that you want to look into. So you have to read through all of this, and then from there you can uh, complete your SLR paper. So why the importance of this protocol, the Prisma, or what was the long name just now? I forgot already. So the Prisma in SLR. First of all, it helps you, as you remember what I mentioned in SLR earlier, by employing this Prisma, it ensures transparency and replicability in your systematic review, right? And minimizes bias through clear documentation, right? And secondly, it enhances the credibility and rigor of your whole research process. So the Prismas, it is a very structured approach, and it is vital for producing high quality literature review, right? So by employing this Prisma, you go through the checklist, you identify, all that is not related, and then you come down to the, maybe a small number. We're talking about sometimes less than 20 articles, but these articles are all going to be very important for that subject, that area that you are studying. So it focuses on documentation, and transparency will strengthen the overall reliability of your research findings. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to all of you who have participated, attended this uh, introduction to systematic literature review. Thank you to the faculty as well for giving me the support to give you and share with you this short session. This one here is something that I recently did. Um, Submitted, but not yet. No news yet on it. probably I will know soon, maybe on the 1st of March, if I'm not mistaken. It's a systematic literature review on AI in the financial sector. So with that, thank you very much. Any questions from the class, from the floor? I'm open. Must all systematic literature review papers include systematic literature review in the title? I would say yes, because that one is not like a cast in stone lah, that probably that you have to write it, that you have to include systematic literature review. But in order for you to easily identify the paper, kan, so it makes sense that you put systematic literature review in the title. So I would say yes, you should do it. You should put systematic literature review in the title of your paper. Oh, I mentioned earlier I want to share. Okay, can you go to the chat area? There's I've shared there, but I think this is only can be shared to people using the Unita accounts. For your thesis, you need to explain the SLR process and result. Um, the SLR will be part of your literature review, so it won't go into your research methodology part, because this is by conducting an SLR, and you can publish an SLR paper, but what this SLR paper will say is that you have done a rigorous, a strict study on literature review. So probably in the chapter 2 itself, you do not need to report the SLR process. You're not going to do the systematic literature review for the chapter 2. So, but whatever you have found using SLR, you put it in chapter 2. What are the common mistakes researchers make in SLR, and how can I avoid them? Right. Probably some of these mistakes I also make myself. Probably not understanding the whole process of SLR, how you are going to approach the SLR. You miss some steps in the, because like I mentioned earlier kan, dia memang you have step 1, 2, 3 to follow, and to be um, aware of, so you cannot miss certain steps. Yeah, probably those are the things. So to avoid them, one of the best way, the Prisma protocol, so that it's documented. These are the steps that you take, and then from there you create the apa nama dia, flow diagram, the Prisma flow diagram, and then you can have it. It becomes very transparent and you can see it. Okay, besides journals, can we use books for references, which is more than 5 years old, but it is still printed and available in the market? Any setback? Uh, okay, let me go through one by one. Books, yes. Okay, I think a few questions masuk at the same time. Okay, books, yes. The problem is with but I think the problem is there are consistently new advancements in the area that we don't know of. So sometimes it becomes obsolete. This information knowledge that has been older than 5 years. So itulah when you say it's more than 5 years tu, we have to evaluate lah. You don't know more than 5 years can be 50 years kan. So we don't know. Um, I would say try to keep the um, information or the knowledge that you use current within 5 years. That would be the best. But having said that, having said that, sometimes certain um, when you refer to theories and all that, you have to go back to the original lah. Kan? Maybe like if you refer to those of you doing marketing, if you look at TPB, Theory of Planned Behavior, so it has to be going back to Eisen in 1970 something lah tu, kan? Okay, so what is the typical number of journal for SLR papers, right? Normally, it's like less than, I would say less than 20, but we cannot make it like based on the number. Oh no, it's too many, we go less than 20. But it's very small number actually, because you have a lot of inclusion, exclusion criteria. Then you have your your Boolean operators and all that process kan. They will eliminate all the unnecessary things. And then lastly, if you remember, I shared with you at one stage you will have an additional elimination, which is why this article you don't want to include, right? But you have to document all that and to put into your SLR paper lah if you are going to publish it. So probably in the range of 10 to 20 will be sufficient, but you will have to read all of them, right? Okay, thank you for the Prisma protocol. Yes, I will also want to share with you the slides if available. Macam mana? How do I share the slides? Kejap. Yeah, I think I can share with you the slides. Hold on. Share. Okay, you can find my slides today, introduction to SLR. Let me see, did I miss any question? My next question, what are some strategies for dealing with contradictory findings in the literature? Well, this is the reason why we do such research, because we cannot only find and report these findings that is just going to back our hypothesis in our research. So by that nature, it is actually good lah that you have contradictory finding, and then you can report A said this in their study, but however B said this. So B found a contradicting finding, right? And then based on your research, what do you find, right? So that makes it more uh, colorful lah. Your research will fun kan? Takkan you want to report only those that all this finding supports my finding. So it's okay actually to have like your hypothesis not supported and all that. It's perfectly normal. Sometimes I saw in the thesis some people put figure, literature mapping or LR metrics to show or prove that the writer has done thorough and extensive LR. Do you have something figure table? Yes, there are some similar, but this is before that. Okay, like I mentioned earlier when I did the slide on narrative scoping, I did mention, and in fact I did that in my dissertation. So I had the name is right, LR matrix. So I did a literature review matrix to show that I have done extensive. But by conducting SLR and then you show your metrics using the only the articles that you have selected through the whole using the Prisma protocol and whatnot, which shows that this is then it is a more rigorous or more extensive study that you have done in your review. Because sometimes when you just select based on there is no basis kan, you just go into um, certain sometimes you just type in your Google search bar and you search for your topic, let's say but whatever you can type in whatever on the Google search bar, and then certain articles come out and you don't know the quality, who the writer is, what the area they are writing about, and all those um, information that you haven't gone through, and then you want to put it in a matrix, and you cannot say that it is extensive lah, because uh, you cannot compare that to a SLR type of literature review lah. That's why that is my opinion. Recommendations on journals that are likely to have a high acceptance rate for systematic literature reviews. Actually, this one uh, I really don't have any recommendations on that. Uh, but you can try to find any journals that you want to send in, and then you can go through their um, articles that they have received, whether they have any SLRs or not. It depends, of course, journals, you have different areas which you want to do, and you have different types of journals, right? Maybe, I'm not sure, you are writing it from a marketing perspective ke in the marketing punya discipline management or HR, so many in just the business punya um, uh, area, you have so many different journals lah. So I wouldn't know or cannot recommend any particular one journal for you to send into. How many recommended number of journals for us to write for us to read to write a good thesis proposal? Okay, then the next one more question. How we find out the journal quality index? What is your recommendation? Which journal index we should exclude or include? Okay, indexing for journal, of course, you have the international ones like the Scopus, the Web of Science (WOS). Those are the high quality ones. If you get from those journals, then it should be um, at a certain level. Besides that, you can look at another list of journals from Australian based. They look at ABDC. Kalau if you are doing in business discipline, it's called Australian Business Dean Council. So that is also in that list, a whole um, list of journals that is um, I'm trying to find if I have the ABDC list. Trying to share. Wait, hold on, 1 minute. Okay. So this is another link that I provided, the ABDC journal. So there is another type of a list of journals which are good. Then, of course, don't forget our country's indexing. We have my site. So those are my site, normally papers from Malaysia lah. So that is also a good database, but mostly papers from Malaysia. So but then if you want to exclude papers yang macam African papers, probably you don't want to consider those lah. Or sometimes those papers, maybe the journals lah, maybe have a lesser quality lah. That's what I meant. Okay, and then the question before that, how many recommended number of journals for us to read to write a good thesis proposal? There's no answer to this lah. How do I frame this? Okay, but what I can say is that if you have done a similar, okay, because it's the class lah, yeah, SLR class. If you took the SLR approach and you identify all the papers within the area that you want to read, then probably you can, start writing a good proposal just based on that, right? Because having gone through the whole rigorous process to eliminate all the unnecessary papers, and you have aligned the paper to your research objective. So from there, you can say that if you have 10 papers based on that 10 papers, but I don't want to put a number like 10 ke 20 ke, because then I don't want it to be turned around and say, look, I have read 20 papers, I should be able to write a good thesis proposal, because then there are other factors as well for you to come out with a good thesis proposal. But if you sometimes the approach is like that, when students, they will come and say, how many citation do you need in my write-up? No, it doesn't work that way. I cannot say like 100 ke 50 ke. So it doesn't work that way. It's how many you need to prove your point, to discuss your the arguments that you have to support your findings. So it's more like that lah. Okay, right. Any other questions before I end this class? I hope I've been clear and I have given some help towards maybe improving your literature review. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Thank you. Let me stop the recording first.
Doctor.